Hello, Don.
Hi, Tracy.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to TIEGA. And can you guys hear all in the back? Oh, this is perfect. All
I
right.
was hoping it come through my laptop, but it only came through my phone, so.
That's all right.
You guys can see me okay.
It does work. So I've got the screen tilted so you can at least see people. They're going to be looking up there at the screen.
Okay.
So that's why they're looking there. It's not that they're ignoring you. So a lot of these guys don't know who you are. So tell us what you teach and how do you not know? Tell us what you teach and the year you got started.
Okay. All right. Well, hello. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for inviting me into your space today. My name is Don Goble. I live and work in St. Louis, Missouri. I work at a public high school of about 1,400 kids. We're a smaller district. We only have one high school, 5 elementary, and 1 middle school. This is my 14th year at Ladue, and I was hired initially to teach the forensics and debate team and a broadcast journalism class. And when my first year only had 7 students. But we had a big studio that was built prior to me getting there by a former teacher who just kind of pulled old equipment in and piecemealed it together. And the principal said, use the space or lose the space. So I said, I'll use it. And I didn't really have much of a curriculum because it was a very small class. They did produce a short show, but it was kind of potty humor and jokes in the hallway, and nobody watches, so why do we care mentality. So that was 14 years ago. And a little bit about my background. So I graduated with a radio, television, journalism degree from Bradley University in Illinois. Worked for a CBS affiliate, radio TV, for 3 years. Worked in the information technology field for about 7, and then transitioned into teaching. So I feel like I've brought a little bit of my business acumen and work ethic to the classroom. It sounds like that's where Tracy and I have a lot in common, where we kind of follow a similar process. And I can tell you, I think that works. I think students really respond to running our class like a small television and film production company rather than a class. We always call it a production, not a class. So that's a little bit about my background. So I had to create curriculum. I had to decide what I liked, what I was going to do. I had no digital editing experience, so I had students teaching me the first 2 years how to use old versions of Final Cut Pro. And to get up to speed on that, I just did some personal projects so that I could now become more of the expert on it. And now I've been editing and edit work. I edit about 3 or 4 videos a month using the current version of Final Cut Pro. So that's a little bit about my background and what I walked into.
So one of the things that I did with a lot of these, all of us, was what was your first year like, and what was your most difficult challenge? And we happened to get lucky today. Somebody presented a challenge and then the solution that they did to the challenge. So what was your most difficult challenge your first couple of years?
I had a ton of challenges. The first was I wanted to make it a program, not a class. So I wanted to build it up, and I needed student buy-in. And so I took the experience I had to decide we're going to make ourselves a television station. We are going to publish all of our work. We're not going to keep it within the classroom. We're going to get it online. I wanted a logo, and we created T-shirts. I wanted student buy-in. I wanted more than 7 kids. I wanted this to be a full-time broadcasting thing. So I had to recruit. I had to show that this was a school entity, like the school newspaper, like the school yearbook. And that was going to take a lot of work to encourage kids and build that up. And so it took a lot of legwork to get a couple kids on board, to create some good content, and to show the school that we were creating something valuable. I think that was one of the biggest things was I wanted the admin to know, the teachers to know, the students to know that what we were creating was valuable and not just playtime down in the TV studio. And so we did that, but we also then wanted to decide what we wanted our program to be. Did we want to be video production? Did we want to be journalism? Did we want to be film? My long-term vision was to be all of those, but the first year I decided I would do something rooted in educational value, which was broadcast journalism. I thought I could get admin on board if I told them this was going to be rooted in journalism, again, not playtime. And so, coming from the journalism world, I didn't want to cover like negative news and be all negative. We wanted to show, and we didn't want to be a PR company. But my favorite storyteller was Steve Hartman. It is Steve Hartman. And so what we literally did, we did two things. We diagnosed and dissected Steve Hartman videos. Back then it was Everybody Has a Story video. We dissected to the second. What did we hear? What did we see? What did he say? Who did he interview? How did he get there? What was the writing like? Did we hear music? What were the sounds? Literally to the second. I had a shot list of probably 68 different things we saw in about a 3.5 minute package. And the students were like, Mr. Goble, you're insane. I'm like, well, we're gonna recreate this. That's what we're gonna do. And this is our structure to do so. And then the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to do a TV show that was respectful. And at the time, I really liked 60 Minutes. I still do. And so we wanted to do kind of a TV magazine format. So we watched 60 Minutes. And then we watched Dateline NBC. And then what I did was I'm like, well, we can't do what the pros are doing. And so then I looked online, I just searched online, and I happened to stumble across Dave Davis and HTV in Springfield, Missouri. Dave Davis was my mentor from afar before he even knew it. And we watched the type of programming that Dave Davis and his students were doing, and I said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to recreate that. So I reached out to Dave virtually. He gave me some ideas, and we started to build a program. And I knew it was going to take steps. And I knew we needed to master one thing before we got as far as we wanted to. And I'll tell you that one of the best stories I had from my first year was, these kids were creating shows, but again, it was silly humor, and the comment was nobody watches. And so the first 6 weeks, I allowed the kids who had been in the class the previous year before I got there to produce something like they had done in the past. And I said, all right, that'll be our first show. And it was so awful what they turned in that they walked in the room, and on the board, after I watched all their videos, I had to pick 50% on the board. And then a big, in writing, not airing. And they walked in and they said, what does that mean? I said, well, it means you all have 50% on your projects because they were awful, and we're not airing the show. And they said, what are you talking about? We always air the show. I said, not this time, we're not, no. And they're like, well, we all failed? And I said, well, yes, but it's up to you what you're going to do now in the next 2 weeks. You can raise this 50%, or you can say, I'm good with it, I'm good with that 50, or I'll give you 2 weeks to revise it, and now do it the way that I have been teaching you the first 6 weeks that you decided to disregard. So I really tried to build expectations and boundaries. And I'll tell you, 6 out of the 7 kids bought into that. The 7th kid was the show editor, was a senior, was going to go to journalism school at DePauw, and he said, I don't want to meet your expectations, Mr. Goble. And the second day of second semester, he walked in with a drop slip. And he dropped. And the kids were like, what are we going to do? We don't have an editor. And I was like, well, time for someone else to step up. And we found a sophomore who said, I'll do it, Mr. Goble. And that was the groundwork right there. That it was okay that we saw this one guy leave and the rest of the class had to step up. And I'm telling you, they stayed late nights. This was back when we couldn't travel with my devices, so we worked in the lab till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, like on deadline day. Like that was what we needed to do. And what we started to see was we saw a morphing of teamwork. We saw a morphing of expectations. The quality of the product got really good by the end of the year. So now the school saw that. They saw us fixing up the studio, fixing up our space, having it look good, having t-shirts, and we suddenly started having kids go, I want to be a part of that. I want to do that. That looks pretty cool. And so that's what we did. And thankfully, you don't know what your numbers are going to be for the next year, but we went from 7 kids my first year to 23 the second year. So by the time I got to year 5, we were serving almost 90 kids a year. So it really grew. And each year we continued to build, and we said, okay, now we've done some news, now we can do some music videos, maybe do a short film, a PSA. But we really decided to master one thing at a time before because there's so many things you could get just swallowed up in. Now, I'm not saying that approach is the right approach for everybody, but it worked really well for us in grounding and building a foundation. And I'll tell you, by the 3rd year, the program was nearly running itself.
Wow. Like you covered like a bunch of questions I had. So
okay.
What year did you notice things definitely changed? Was it like year 3? Or
It was year 2.
2?
Year 2, I felt we were trending up. We had more shows and product and videos that were good rather than bad. But the other thing I started to do was, many times kids think, well, really at school, it's like you create something, and you turn it in, and you're done. So one of the things I implemented my second year was students can revise their work at any time for the rest of the semester. And, well, I'll accept it, to regrade it. And it was like this huge weight off their shoulders. Because I was like, video making is a process. It's not you turn it in and you're done. Now, we might have included it in the show, or maybe we didn't include it in the show. We went from including every student's video, even if it was bad, to only including the good stuff. And by year 3, we pretty much had 90% of the student work included. And then you have those kids who just, don't want to do the work or whatever, and their stories didn't make the show. But I'll tell you that the other biggest thing I added in year 3 was the creation of digital portfolios. So what was happening was, if a student's video didn't make the show, it was really a negative thing. Like they got down on themselves, and then they were like, screw it, forget it, I'm just not going to produce. And I said, because it's not going to get published anyway. So the 3rd year I instituted digital portfolios where every kid had to publish their work. It may not make the show, but it's going to be published on their website. So the whole world could see it. We may not show the whole school, but it'll be out there. And the accountability and quality went way up when kids realized, oh God, I have to publish no matter what. So they started putting in a little different effort and listening better and following instructions. So year 2, I saw the uptick. Year 3, we were good. We weren't great. We were like we had a good foundation. And by year 3 now, I was going, okay, what can we do to improve even a little bit the next year? What can we do to polish and revise? A lot of reflection. And I still do that to this day. Every single year, I'm like, what can we do different and better? We have never stood pat. And then by year 5, we started winning awards, and we started getting recognized, and we started building professional partnerships where local companies and TV stations were asking us for student content. But it took 5 years to get there. But it took really only the second year, by building expectations and boundaries and excitement, for the school to really embrace us. And then by year 3, the school was expecting us to produce good stuff. So it went from playtime to, what do you guys got going on? What's happening next? That took a good 3 years to get to, though.
Excellent. We have teachers here from their first year to over 20 years teaching video. What's the constant piece of advice you can offer all of us?
Never be satisfied. I always tell the kids, you're only as good as your last show or your last video. And I feel that way about my own work. Like I said, I still produce content every single month, every week almost. So never be satisfied. So what does that mean? It means constantly reflecting on your assignments and your lessons. It means constantly asking students for feedback. When I have students create these digital portfolios, I have them log to tell me about the good, the bad, and the ugly of their projects. Because as you guys know, we're not out there with them when they're reporting a lot of the time. So we don't know the highs and lows that they have. So I read those and I learn from those. I continue to beg, borrow, and steal from teachers that are out there that are doing good work to get new ideas. Next year, we're going to start implementing a multimedia sports production class. Well, I have a background in sports, but I've never run a sports production class and running videos on a video scoreboard. So I had to research and find people that are out there that are doing that. And then just constantly like keeping up with the trends, like what's happening. So I guess it was back in 2015, mobile devices were really in the hands of every one of our kids. We were going to a one-to-one iPad mini initiative at our school. And so then I said, I need to create content and curriculum that kids can use for broadcasting with a mobile device. So I created an entire iTunes Youth course of how to use a mobile device, but with no accessories. We weren't going to have any accessories. We had no microphones or tripods for the phone or iPad mini. So, but I knew like the industry was going to mobile devices. I had students telling me that when they went to college. I remember a student who went to Arizona State University at a Cronkite school, and she sent me a photo of her first semester of her freshman year. Her assignment was to cover an announcement by the local mayor. She was in the front row with her phone, and she took a picture of all the big cameras in the back of her. So she was able to get up close while everybody, the pro cameras were in the back of her. She's like, this is not what I'm doing. And she actually got her questioning answered by the mayor, where some in the back did not, because they were covered by their big equipment. So it's constantly trying to evolve and keep up with what's happening in the industry. Listening to your students, I constantly keep in touch with my students in college, and I find out what they're doing. Did I prepare them well enough? Are they over-prepared? Is that good? What are they learning that I could now bring into my program? Because I want it to be a college preparatory program. So maintaining those relationships with those students, not only for that reason, but then also I constantly have them come back, or I FaceTime, Zoom call them in and have them talk to the next generation. I have them record student testimonials about how the lessons they learned in my class are helping them in their careers, even if they aren't in the industry. That's great documentation for admin to prove our worth, because I'm constantly fighting to prove my value and worth here. You would think admin and everybody would think, every year I'm fighting to show my value. Every year I'm fighting to get enrollment. Every year I'm fighting just to keep my job in many cases. So it's constantly evolving, never being satisfied, and then building those relationships with those students and maintaining those, I think, is the best advice I could give.
Advice well taken. I follow every bit of that. Was there ever a point in teaching video, and how many years have you been doing this? 12?
So this is my 14th year, but I do 17th in education.
Okay. Was there ever a point in teaching video where you thought, I can't do this anymore? And what changed that?
Never. No.
Okay.
Okay. I've been tested and challenged a lot. Last year I had 3 justify your job meetings with my administration. We went through a huge $85 million renovation of our school, and we had a TV studio, and I had a meeting with the principal and HR, and these people were like, so justify why we should build you another studio. Like, why is this going to... I'm constantly justifying what we're doing is valuable. When advanced placement AP courses and STEM courses became the push from up above, and I saw my numbers go from 90 crash down to 46. And it was, well, Don, what are you doing wrong? But we had, kids didn't have time. They're taking double cores, APs, STEM, Project Lead the Way, Study Hall, the backfill schedule, not taking an elective. So I'm constantly faced with these challenges, but I always go back to, I love what I do. I know it's important. I know it's as important as ever before in our media world and the political world that we're living in. And teaching kids media literacy and video production not necessarily as a career, but as a life skill. I've never once questioned that, so I'll keep fighting until I retire in 10 years.
Cool.
I'm not counting, though.
You're not counting. We've got somebody here who's he's going to retire in May.
Nice.
So he's like,
congratulations, man. Well done.
he's ready. He's like, I just want to stay motivated to May. All right, so it seems like you've got your hands in a variety of different things other than teaching. Could you give us some examples of some of the other things, the initiatives that you're doing, and how is that helping you down the road?
One of my goals when I became a teacher was I wanted to model what I wanted my kids to do, and I never wanted to ask them to do something I wouldn't do myself. So I'm constantly trying to be a lifelong learner. And what I discovered is I kind of started developing my own curriculum, and I kind of stumbled into speaking at educational conferences and journalism conferences, was that I need to share my experiences, the good and the bad. And so I started blogging, and I started doing speaking at conferences. I started, talking. Instead of doing video calls, I would be invited and we'd come and talk and meet in a room at workshops. I still do that. I've created a webinar series, a free webinar series. I partner with SchoolTube.com, which is an educational website just like YouTube, but there's only educational content on there, created by teachers and students, and it's a free service. And so they asked me if I would create some webinars on ways to make videos in better ways, and all of the elements that are involved. Like I just released one this week on storyboarding and the purpose of storyboarding. So I do webinars, and then I decided that I had to create my own curriculum that I could maybe publish it. So I started doing some work with Apple Education, and I learned, because we're an all Apple district, I learned how to write an iBook. I learned how to create an iTunes U course. And so now I've written 3 books. I've written 2 courses. And I've just, there's just a lot, all these, and then I just continue to find ways to share what I do. I'm heavily on social media. So a lot of the work that I ask for and share is on Twitter. I share a lot of my work on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm sharing that work, not only my own, but my student work. I really highlight my student work. So I'll post a student video and give a backstory about what the lesson was and why it was successful. And it might not always be the best one, but it might have a really good backstory. So I'm constantly sharing my student work on social media. And then I teach at journalism workshops over the summer. I would invite you guys to any of those at any point, or send your students. I teach at 2 really good ones. One is in Dallas, Texas. It's called the Gloria Shields Media Workshop. It's sponsored by the National Scholastic Press Association, which has been around for 100 years. And we've got 2 great video tracks. There's a beginning broadcast video track that's taught by Jim McCarthy, who's a teacher from California, and then I teach the advanced track. Last year I had 30 kids in my class, and it's a great opportunity because kids come, on day 1 they kind of show me what they know, and then on day 2 we go to a small town. It's called Old Town Carrollton. It's like straight out of like the 1950s, and I drop them there for 90 minutes and they have to find a story. And then they come back and they have about 4 hours to edit. So we really try to put them in a professional environment of finding a story. So it's a great camp. And then I teach at a camp in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at Marquette University. And that's an all-digital media camp. So then I typically get kids who do video or on their newspaper staff. And I teach them how to do everything with their phones. Photos, video, social media, and website creation, all publishing from a digital device. Because that's a skill I think all of our kids need too. So that camp is in July. Gloria Shields is at the end of June. Tracy, I know you'll probably give them all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to post all of that stuff. And they can find you at Don Goble Media.
No, so it's just dongoble.com.
dongoble.com.
I have free curriculum on there. All of my webinars are on there. I have all my published work. Everything on my site is free. Everything. And if there's something you're looking for and it's not there, I'll help you find it. But I mean, I've got anything and everything you'd ever want. And so like last year, I had a bunch of teachers asking me, well, Don, what's your workflow? What does that look like, especially for your introductory level class? So on my website, under resources, is broadcast curriculum. And I've kind of got it alphabetically ordered, but those are all the things we kind of do in my introductory class. With a document in there with the workflow, what we do first, what we do second, what we do third, and we're only a semester course, so what we get through for that semester, and then, all right, well then they take your second level, then what happens? So I've got curriculum to cover that. All that is on my website.
When you have your program, what is it that you want your student that starts with you, let's say in high school, they start in you in ninth grade, what do you want them to know when they walk out the door for the last time?
Well, the biggest thing is if I can change the way that they look at the media and watch media and consume media, then I've won. When the kid comes in and says, Mr. Goble, you have ruined television and film for me forever, I've won, right? Because we've got them understanding angles and lighting and sound and context and who's sending the message and why they're sending it. So it's that media literacy principle, really, because the percentage of the kids that are going to be in the industry are low. But the percentage of kids who are going to get jobs if they know video is high. That's the other thing. I have parents tell me, well, what's the future of broadcasting and film? My son and daughter, they'll never be a filmmaker. Well, I said, okay. So what I did, I basically went out to my alumni and I said, well, how many of you guys got jobs right out of college? And the percentages are through the roof. Now, they may not be doing their dream job, but because they know how to create video, 85% of corporations in the world have internal video departments. And my kids are getting jobs running social media, they're getting jobs in marketing firms, they're getting jobs at TV, what you name it, they're doing it. I even had a student tell me who turned out to be a captain in the Army and is now going back to military law school. He said the lessons he learned in my class prepared him more for his time as an Army Ranger than anything else he's ever done, because it was about teamwork, collaboration, commitment, expectations, deadlines. And so he took those internally. And so if I can give kids those skills by the time they leave, then I feel like I've won. Having them consume the media differently, have them look at the world a little differently, offer them a creative space. Ultimately, that's what we want to do. And then if I can do that, then I feel like I've succeeded.
Awesome. So I'm always big into quick numbers. If I were to ask you, give us your 5 top things that the teachers need to focus on teaching video production or broadcast journalism. What do you think are the 5 top? And they don't have to be in any kind of order. It could be 5 things that you think are super, super important.
Well, number 1, story. You have to tell a story. And it's really interesting that I find, even to this day, after my first level kids, when you try to ask them to tell a story visually, their brain goes silent. They've read stories, they've written stories their whole life, and yet you ask them now to tell one visually with a camera angle or some color or whatever, and they're completely lost. But as soon as I tell them, telling a story visually is like writing a creative essay. So I try to take some language and vocabulary that makes sense to them to connect a story. It all starts with story. Teaching kids how to tell a visual story. You got to do that. Beginning, middle, and end. What's the conflict? What's the resolution? And telling stories through characters, not things or objects. That's number 1. What is the story and why should I care? Then you start talking about the elements of visual storytelling. So I spend a lot of time on cinematography. And not cool cinematography just because it looks cool, but really explaining the why. What information are we gathering from a wide shot? By zooming in and getting a medium shot, because we see the world in medium, every kid wants to make every shot a medium shot, it's super boring. Well, once they understand the why of what they're revealing in a medium shot, and then by zooming in for a close-up or a tight shot, what are we revealing to the viewer? So if we use a high angle, what does that make our character look like? And a low angle, how does that make us feel about our character? So really understanding the whys behind the camera distance and angles, you have to teach the basics. So we get down and dirty first. Just, hey, pick up the camera, here's a wide angle, practice it. Here's a medium angle, practice it, right? But I don't waste more than, like the next day I'm telling them, well, here's why. You gotta know the why of cinematography. And then I always tell them you don't have video without sound, so you have to master sound. Whether that's through microphones, whether that's through the use of natural sound or music, everything, I tell them every visual image has sound, and every visual image has to move and have sound, otherwise you have a picture. And so we want moving images. And so sound, I always tell them, sound is just as important, if not more, than the video itself. I don't care how beautifully composed the shot is if I can't hear it, and I'm supposed to hear it. I always tell them that they could be interviewing somebody who's telling me their life story, and that person's getting really deep, and it's beautifully composed, it's lit well, and there's no microphone, so I'm hearing this echo, right? It just sounds like a tin can. I'm going to turn that thing off. But if the camera's a little shaky, maybe it's a little out of focus, maybe it's slanted because I didn't extend the tripod blade, but they had a microphone and I can hear it, I'm going to be compelled to listen. So sound is just as important as anything else. So I go from composition to sound. So story, composition, cinematography, sound. Curiosity, having them be curious, constantly asking questions, constantly thinking of stories. When I have a student tell me, I don't know what to do, there's nothing going on. I have more ideas in my head than there are times. There'll ever be enough days that I'm alive to be able to do all the stories that I want to do. So, and we do a really good job in school of kind of beating the creativity and curiosity out of kids in other classes, right? We have them all in a row and tell them what to learn, when to learn it, how to do it. So getting kids to really think for themselves, creatively and curiosity, being curious to come up with their own ideas, I think that's huge. I don't like giving an assignment. I'll give an assignment. I'll give a 6-word story, 6-shot assignment. That's your assignment. And they'll say, well, what's the topic? I don't know. You tell me. What do you want to do now? What do you love? What do you like? What's important to you? What do you want to know more about? What's the story you want to tell? What are the things swimming in your head? What have you seen on camera, on film and TV that you'd like to recreate? Getting kids to think on their own like that, especially in high school, is huge. You guys may recognize this. They'll be like, well, just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And I'll be like, no, I'm not going to tell you that. The idea is up to you. I will give you your parameters and guidelines, but I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. And they will get so frustrated, but that's really a huge skill. And when they're struggling, they're like, this is so hard, just tell me what to do. I'll be like, I'm glad you're struggling because you're learning right now. It's through that pain that you're learning. You're not going to learn with me telling you. So I think curiosity, creativity is the fourth thing. Really having them think for themselves. And then probably the last, I don't know, there's a ton, but maybe the fifth one would be having them take initiative of their own learning and be satisfied with their work. I always tell them, if you're not satisfied with it, or you think it's boring, or you think it's just okay or average, guess what I'm going to think it is? I'm going to think it's probably pretty bad. So I want them to think that what they're doing is their best at that moment, and not constantly seek validation from me. I don't want that. I know I've also one where I had a student say, and I want to review work, I'm not saying I'm not going to look at your stuff, go do it on your own, and then just turn it in. I want to help them through the process and offer them feedback, but when they can say, it's done, Mr. Goble, I'd like you to take a look at it. I think it's pretty good. Now I can start picking it apart and having some really good conversations. But if I have a student say, Mr. Goble, will you come watch this in the first 2 seconds? I can see a major problem with it. I'm like, okay, we're not going to play that game of, is it good, is that good, how many points off of that, how many points off of that. I don't play that game. So having them really take initiative of their own learning and be happy with their work, but know they can always do better, and then, and offering feedback during that process. I think that's a big thing. I'm not a big grader. I hate points. I hate grading. Hate it. What I do like, I hate it. We got to do it, and we do it, and I play the game, we do it. But I'd rather have a constructive feedback conversation with them. I'd rather have a big class meeting and watch all the videos and do a plus minus on the board and what we did well and what we didn't do so well. It's that feedback piece that we have to give those kids. And what I found is if you do that, if you take the anxiety away of points and you just tell that student, keep creating, keep creating, keep creating, never be satisfied. It's not like I said, shoot wide, medium, and tight. Okay, I'm done. Go do it again. I had a student today, Mr. Goble, I don't know if this is okay, but I did wide, medium, and tight, and I did like 9 different shots. Is that okay? Thank you. I give students, I'm like, you have to blog 5 to 7 sentences about your project. I had a student the other day. She goes, Mr. Goble, I hope it's okay, but I blogged like 10 sentences. I couldn't get it all in 5. Is that okay? That's okay. So, that's what I think, that's what you're looking for. Because then the anxiety of points go away. They have enough of that in other classes. Give them a space to just create. Give them feedback. Hold them to high expectations. Give them deadlines. Give them a chance to revise. And just take that whole point thing away. And you'll see a whole. When I started taking that away, I said, look, you all have 100. And it goes down from there. If you just start if you're lazy, you're not turning stuff in. But if you keep creating, how can I not give you 100? Now, your project might not be 100%. We'll talk about that, like where you can improve. But don't worry about it. Keep working.
So, you're focused on, like, if they're turning in work late, you're gonna dock them. But if they're creating,
so I tell them there's never a reason to miss a deadline because they have the whole semester to revise it. So there's no reason not to turn in the best of what they have when it's due. That tells me a lot about what they've done to get there. Of course, I'm observing that anyway. But it also helps the perfectionist say, I got to turn it in. It helps the kid who maybe is not so into perfection say, well, I got to turn it in. But then it also gives good structure to the student who says, because the kids will work to the deadline that you give them. You can give them a week deadline, they'll meet it. You say, I'm going to give you 4 weeks to do it. Well, they'll wait for 4 weeks and I'll do it. You'll have some that'll do a little along the way. Some will wait till the last minute. And you'll see that. And so, but it's the kid who you say, okay, you have 4 weeks before the big deadline. I do many deadlines along the way. You have to have your interviews by this date. You have to have your B-roll by this date. If they're doing a film, I want your script by this date. I want your raw footage by that date. I want it 50% edited by that date. And then 100% edited, and they turn it in, and I'll be like, okay, it's 100% edited to you, but here's some great things you fixed. Now you're really advancing and polishing that thing. So there's no reason ever to meet the deadline that I give them, which is just arbitrary in many cases. Everything we do is online anyway now. We're not meeting it. It's not appointment television anymore. I mean, we just, as soon as it's done, we stream it. We put it online, right? So the deadlines are arbitrary, but we do that obviously to offer structure still.
Is there a favorite short project that you could advise? A lot of the teachers, when I polled them, a lot of them said they really want something that they could take back with them and get started on Monday. Give us one of your favorite little short projects.
Well, it's my student's favorite project. It's a book that I wrote for Apple Education back in 2013. It's more popular, I think, now than it was back then because of accessibility. It doesn't matter the camera that we use. So I wrote a book called 6 Word Stories, 6 Unique Shots, Enhancing Writing Through Multimedia. If you don't have an Apple device, I can offer you a PDF of the book. But the book it's touch screen. It works on a laptop or a phone or an iPad. It's fully accessible for the hearing and sight impaired. And it's great because it's that you have them write a 6-word story about anything they want. You can give them a prompt or a theme, and I've done that in the past. It could be the theme about themselves. It could be a theme of something you're learning. It doesn't matter the theme, right? Just if you give them a prompt, make it like 1 or 2 words. Again, don't give them the full thing. Make them think of their own 6-word story. And then they got to tell that story in 6 unique cinematic shots. So my book has 10 of the basic camera shots and angles that we would want to use as videographers. Paired up with that is another educator who did an iBook that has 19 of the most cinematic, favorite cinematic shots, from collapsed ollie to dark voyeur to all your basics, high and low angle, all that kind of stuff. And I tell kids to choose 6 of those 10 or 19 shots to tell their story. They have to use color to their advantage. So color through what their characters are wearing, or maybe filters they add in editing. That has to have sound, so it could be voice, natural sound, or royalty-free music, not popular music. Every shot has to be edited to only 3 to 5 seconds. So the whole video will be 18 to 30 seconds, which is your standard banner ad, promo, PSA, commercial length. And the kids I've had teachers, the book has been downloaded, I think, over 100,000 times across the world. Teachers in every class, in any kind of course, have done it in 45 minutes, or I take on up to 2 weeks because I get into some heavy editing and storytelling with it. But you could start that on Monday. I mean, you could download the book and be like, all right, we're writing 6-word stories today. And then you got to find 6 unique shots to tell the story.
Can they find that book on dongoble.com?
Of course they can. Not only is it's underpublished, but it's also, if you look under resources, it's got its own page. So it's got the book, it's got some supplemental teaching material, it's got examples that students have turned in to us from around the world, and they're not all amazing, but from first graders all the way up to pre-med students have turned in videos to us, sharing that with us. It's a great project. In fact, that's the project I'm going to do next after teaching my kids this semester, wide, medium, and tight, and teaching them how to edit. That's the very next project that we do, because it's a great way. You're only using 6 shots, but you have to tell a story in that 6 shots. So it's less is more. And what I find is the kids will really struggle through that. They love doing the 10-second pan shot, but we're not going to do that. Like, you got to edit it to 3 to 5 seconds. And so it's the basics of cinematography, it's the basics of writing, it's the basics of research, because we research what a 6-word story is. So we learn about Ernest Hemingway, and we realize there have been huge 6-word story and 6-word memoir projects online for years. And then we can use the basics of cinematography, color, and sound. Wrap that into a quick edit, and you've got a great story.
Hey, Don, could you maybe pick up your phone? We've got you frozen on the screen, and just maybe I don't even know
Still
how to.
frozen?
Yeah, it's still frozen. Any advice?
I was hoping it would come through my laptop, because we're kind of in a dead zone here in my school, coming through my phone.
I mean, the audio is perfect. So if everyone
You want to hang up and try and call back?
Yeah. Well, let's try that.
Okay.
All right. Bye. Senators, did you get any pics? Excellent. Much better.
Okay.
Cool. Let's get you full screen. All right. We got you.
All right.
All right. So some of my questions we're kind of on the negative side, but I want to switch since you're so positive, and I want to keep that mode going. And this is actually closing us out, but give us your best piece of advice to grow your program. Some of these teachers, they're now in here 2 years. They don't know how to grow their program. What's your best advice to grow the program?
Well, this is a constant battle, so just be prepared for a constant battle probably your whole career. And so, these methods work some years and some years they don't. There's a few things. One, as I mentioned earlier, publish all of your work online. Have every kid publish their work online and have them build a digital portfolio. Don't just leave it on YouTube and let it sit there. The next thing would be to take those links that you create for videos, no matter what they are, and whoever was involved in those, send them those links. If it was someone you interviewed, if it were students that were a part of the film, if it was a business you helped do a PSA for, send them the link, thank them, send it out there, and then tweet it, post it on Facebook, have them put it on Instagram, get it out there, really push your work. It's amazing that up until about a couple of years ago, I would still have teachers say, well, we don't know where, you guys do a show? Oh my God, we tell you all the time what we do. We push it out all the time. How can you not know? Some people just aren't going to know. The next thing you want to do is you got to talk to your middle schools. Go down to the middle school or invite the middle school up. I have the middle school come, now that I have a new studio, I have the middle school come and either A, observe one of our productions, or B, let them produce something while they're here. And that gets them super jazzed about the program. The next thing you have to do is you have to encourage kids. If I see even a little bit of talent with a student, I'm letting them know, you know what, you'd be great for our staff. We need you on our staff. Kids love to be told when they're doing something well. We all do, right? But you have, if you identify that kid, don't just assume they're going to take your class. Lock them in. I also created a flow chart of all of my classes. And so about the week of registration, I took all my classes, I show them this flow chart, and I say, look, this is what we do in this class, this is what we do in this class. I show a video from that class. I'm constantly recruiting. You have to recruit. You have to put your stuff, if you have digital signage in your building, throw a video on digital signage. Put your announcements on there. Put a cool video a student made. Another thing that's really increased our viewership and our recruiting has been to partner with the parents' organizations for two reasons. One, they have a weekly e-newsletter they send out to parents in the district. And so I send them an update of what we've done that week of student work, and they include it in the newsletter. We also then have gotten some donations from the parents' organization. So that when parents know what you're doing, the parents will talk to their kids, right? And encourage them maybe to take your class. Another thing you have to do, I don't know what it's like in your school, but it's always a work and a challenge. I meet with the counselors, and I have to constantly remind them, this is what we do in this class. These are the learning outcomes in this class. This is the progression of my classes in my program. It's a constant reminder, and we're going through turnover of counselors now this year, so I have to teach a whole new set of counselors what my program is, who is great in it, why it's valuable, who should take it. And I can still do all of these things and not, and still end up with small numbers. Like I did last semester, I had 6 in my advanced class. This semester I have 14. I have no idea what I'm going to have in the fall. I hope it's more than 14. I used to serve, anywhere from 18 to 20. So, to me, that's really the best. Those are some of the easiest ways to continue to recruit. You just, put up posters, put up, make banners, put up QR codes, and have people hold up their phone and have it take you to their website. Anything you can think of to market yourself and recruit, I am constantly recruiting, constantly. That's really the best advice that I can give you.
Fantastic. So we've been talking almost an hour. Does anybody have any questions that Don has been through, like everything that we've been through, and then some? And he has come out on the other side helping all of us. And that's why I reached out to Don. This is actually the first time that we've met face to face.
Yeah.
But I've known Don's work for a number of years, and he had mentioned Dave Davis. I actually went to a seminar with Dave Davis at STN, and I sat through his seminar 3 times, and every single time from the student work, I laughed at the student work and I cried. Like, Dave is a master storyteller. And what's interesting is we're all reaching out to the same teachers. So there's nothing brand spanking new. We figured out what works. So if you guys have any questions, Don's here. You've got his website. Any questions before we let Don get back into teaching? And do you have any classes today, this period?
No, I'm good right now. Actually, guys, I'm going to go do some filming at one of our elementary schools. But I pushed it, so I've got time. I mean, if you got questions, shoot them my way.
How do you go about putting together a student staff?
Question was, how do you go about putting together a student staff?
So are you talking like leadership positions or?
Yeah, like is that done within a class or do you do it as an extracurricular?
Okay, yeah. No, I don't do anything extracurricular. One of the main reasons why I've not done things extra for, like outside of school is then they won't take my class.
Yeah.
And then my numbers will be low. I've had kids go, oh, can we do a film club, this and that? I've thought about it, and I don't know, I debate that back and forth. So the leadership and the staff comes together in my advanced level class. So my 2nd through 3, 4, 5, 6 classes. The way I kind of do it is, everybody has a role. We decide who wants to, which role. I don't assign leadership positions to students just to assign leadership positions. If a student wants to be the executive producer of our staff, they have to do the job before I give them the title. If a student wants to be the chief editor, they have to do the job before I give them the job. If they want to be the head staff writer, same thing. So there are some years I don't give leadership position titles. There are other years that I do. And then beyond that, I really try to mix kids up, and I teach them everything in front of and behind the camera in the first level. And then in the second level, I allow them to specialize. So I think that helps a little bit too. I still do encourage those kids who don't want to be in front of the camera to be in front of the camera, knowing that if they know what it's like in front of the camera, they'll be smarter for it behind the camera. And I have some great success stories of those kids then who actually love being on camera more than they ever thought they would. So really just trying to identify student strengths, what you think they're good at, and that's kind of what I had to do this first month. So I had 14 kids come in. I had only 3 that had been on my staff before. So I had 11 new students that had come through my first level class. And knowing what they did in my first level class, knowing their interests, then I kind of met with them individually, and I'm like, all right, what are you good at? What do you like? And we identify strengths and weaknesses, and we're kind of letting that play out right now for the recording of our first show. We'll see how that works, and if people don't hold up their end, we can switch that up. If others excel, then we'll keep them in that role. I like keeping our staff jobs fluid. I don't like having one person do one job all the time. It needs to be fluid. It helps them prepare them better than just specializing in one thing. But I will tell you, I do like identifying student leaders because they can then become mentors, and we all know that we learn more when we teach. So I have them teach some of the newer kids now, like the 3 I've had before. They are mentoring all of these other kids, and I see them working together, and it's awesome. It's amazing, to have them helping rather than coming to me all the time. So that's kind of how our staff comes together.
Very cool. Anybody else have any questions? I think we've pretty much covered it. Don, you've been great. And I'm gonna stay in touch with you. I'm starting to get more involved in the JEA kind of stuff. That's my weakness is storytelling. I come from more of a production background, so I took notes. I have gobs of notes. I cannot thank you enough. This has been great. And you're going to be, are you doing a call-in to TIEGA Camp TNI like you did? Didn't you do one last year?
I did one in the fall. I did something with a group in the fall.
All right, they're saying that some of these guys saw you at Camp TNI. So they recognized you.
Good. Yeah, and I'm happy to help any of you at any time. If you have specific questions, hit me up on my website on the contact page. That'll come directly to me, or send me a tweet and I'll get back to you. I'm happy to help support you. I appreciate, respect, and love that you guys are all teaching this and offering this as an educational tool for kids. And we got to stick this together, right? I mean, we're on islands of our own in our own building. So anytime we can find a cohort or a network, we gotta help each other.
And he's also on our Georgia Facebook page, and he is very active and responds very, very quickly, like within minutes, which it's very cool because I know a lot of times when we have questions, we need an answer right now. So it's just nice to have a positive spin. And Don, thank you so much. This has been great. You got pictures and we screen recorded, so hopefully I'll have this posted in the next day or so, and I'll give you a link to it, and then you can use it on your stuff. But
yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll post it on my site for sure.
Excellent. All right, well, Don, have a great rest of the Friday. Have a great weekend, and I will be in touch. Take care.
Tracy, thank you. You guys
My pleasure.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.